Therefore, let us also, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, lay aside every weight and the sin which doth easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. We're going to be in Hebrews 12 this morning. If you want to turn there, that's mainly where we're going to be. Hebrews 12, about the first 15 verses. Talking about spiritual race. And I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about my racing. I'm a runner, a jogger. I'm okay with people calling me jogger because I'm pretty slow runner. Started running a couple of years ago, and I wanted to share with you guys some things that I think we can apply in our spiritual race about inspiration, my inspiration, the training that's been involved with running, and then getting to run a race. And the question I want you guys to think about as we talk about racing and running in the spiritual race is where are you at? Where are you at in your spiritual race? And we'll talk more about different things here. Like I said, my inspiration 2 years ago in August, I was at a conference, and it was up in Boston. That's where this man was from. Dick Hoyt was going to be speaking, doing an inspirational speech at this conference I was at. I didn't know who this man was, but I was told by a friend, he said, you need to listen to this man. And Dick Hoyt got up there speaking, and he talked about his son, Rick. His son, Rick, that was born with cerebral palsy. And he shared some stories. I bought his book, and I can't share all these stories, but he wanted to raise his son up like he didn't have any handicap, treat him just like any other child. They had 2 other children because they wanted Rick to be the big brother and wanted him to be part of the family. And there were so many funny stories how they just latched onto Rick, and Rick was with them everywhere they went, and they did some fun things with his brothers. When Rick was in high school, there was a guy on the football team of the high school he went to basically broke his neck and it was paralyzed from neck down. And they were going to have a 5K race to benefit Rick's friend that went to school with him. And Rick, at that time, they had gotten him he can't speak, but they had gotten a computer to where he could type out what he wanted to say. And he told his dad, I want to run in that race. And his dad had never run, but he said, surely I can push you. So they ran in a 5K, and he pushed his son Rick in this wheelchair 3 miles. And when they got home, he said his son was just smiling the whole time out there running. His son typed into tell his dad, Dad, that was the first time I didn't feel handicapped when I was out there running with you. There's a bunch of guys at this conference, and we were teared up. But Dick kept on, and he told us about that inspired him. He knew he had to do more of that for his son, if his son enjoyed that. Dick started training. He started running. He said, I'm going to do this as much as I can. He started running 5Ks. He ran 10Ks with his son, pushing his son in this wheelchair. They ran half marathons, and they run the marathon, the full marathon, qualified for the Boston Marathon. He's run that several years now. And one last story of Dick and Rick Hoyt. Dick had never swam, never rode bicycles, but he kept training. His son loved every bit of it, loved being out there with his dad. They ran in the Ironman triathlon. This is the fittest of the fit are in this. And I'll tell you how he did it. He put his son in a little raft, because you have to start in the water. And he swam with his son for 2.5 miles. At the edge, they showed some of the videos. He has to pick his son up and run with him 300 yards to their bicycle that's specially fitted to where they can he puts Rick on the front of the bicycle, rode the bicycle 112 miles, takes his son off the bicycle, puts him into their special wheelchair, and pushes him for a full marathon. And they show videos of Rick on those races, and he is smiling the whole time. Said they are going through some, it's hard for Rick too, just riding on this, but just big smiles. And I came back from that, that was my inspiration to get started running. And, you want to make goals for what I want to run, but I needed to make a goal. And the first thing I did, probably too early, is I said, I'm going to run a marathon. Okay, so, skip that 5K. There's probably some steps there. But I tell you what I did is I put it on Facebook. I'm going to run a marathon. Now, I still haven't run a marathon. We'll get to that, but I have been working towards that goal. And putting it out there made myself accountable to that. In Hebrews 12, our inspiration, we're going to read through verse 3 at this time. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. My inspiration was a father and a son relationship. This spiritual race, it's another father and son. The love of a father for us is sons and daughters of his. Love of a father for his son that he sent here to bear that cross. Consider Jesus this morning as our inspiration. Consider God as our inspiration. For the joy set before our Savior. I had to read that several times when I did. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. For the joy set before him. We have spiritual races too. We need to be accountable to that. In our inspiration, what are we looking to do? What's our goal for Christ and for our service to God? I'll let you guys know because I did not hold myself accountable in this case. I didn't post it on Facebook, but Jason has been doing a really good job in several of his lessons, challenging us to look for ways we can focus and do more for God. One of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to write a letter to each one of you guys in my family, my church family here, and tell you how much I appreciated you, and tell you how much you encouraged me, and try in some little way to encourage you guys. And I've heard from some of you guys, and it's helped me, and I hope it's helped you. I started that in June and July, and I wrote a lot of letters. I did. I wrote a lot of letters, and there's several of you guys that have received those letters. But I didn't tell anybody about this. Nobody was holding me accountable. So you know how many letters I've wrote in August, September? 0. That accountability, we need to reach out. By saying that, I've just locked myself in, haven't I? And that was my intent. This is one way to do it. So be looking in your mailbox. What spiritual goals do you guys have? Is someone holding you accountable? If not, set those goals and have someone help you, be that you can be accountable to. Training. That was the next step. Okay. Came home, posted, I'm going to run the marathon. That's a long distance. That's 26 miles. The longest I'd have ever run before that was 2 miles. So 2 miles to 26 miles, big gap. And I ran that 2 miles when I was in high school. I turned 35 tomorrow. That's a big gap too. So we got some big gaps here. But I thought, well, it's just running on a road, right? So I started running, and I got back to that 2 mile marker, which is not very far. For if you're getting ready for a marathon, my feet were killing me. I couldn't hardly walk the rest of the day. Pain in the bottom of my feet. It was very bad. But I got some new running shoes, and it cleared it right up. So that was helpful. So I got out to 6 and 7 miles running at a time. And that's when the knife started going into my knee. I mean, just incredible pain where I was just hobbling. One evening, we were down, I can't remember what we were doing. It's getting close to Christmas time. And I came back from a run, and Megan told me to pick up a box, and I picked it up, and I fell down and just laid there in pain. It was very bad. Sometimes you set the goals a little high. You need to work towards those goals. I found out that maybe half marathon was a good place to start, and that's what I had to bring that down a little bit. So pain is involved with training. Obstacles. These little dogs when you're running. I would say big dogs. The big dogs are pretty scary too, but these little dogs, and I don't see the yells here. They got a little dog that chases me sometimes. But dogs, there's obstacles when you're out running. Cars. One day, let's just say last week, because this was last week, I was out in my long run on the weekend, and I was running good in my own neighborhood, and I felt good, and I heard a horn, just loud right behind me. So I'm cringing up, I turn, and I'm seeing a white, big truck right on top of me, and it's loud. I think this is it, Cars are obstacles. I'm a little runner, big car. This is it. I'm gone. And then I see this car pull up beside me, and an old man laughing. Flynn Gerald. I told him I was going to get him back. But see, they're obstacles. Yeah, he was laughing too. And y'all are laughing. I was not laughing. It was not funny until later. Later, it was okay. Our training involves pain and does have obstacles also in our spiritual race. Turn back to Hebrews 12. We're going to read verses 4 through 13. In our spiritual race, the training. In your struggle against sin, have you not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood? And have you completely forgotten this word of encouragement that addresses you as a father addresses his son, saying, My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. Endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as his children. For what children are not disciplined by their father? If you are not disciplined and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we have had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live? They disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, in order that we may share in his holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees, make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. We have the chasing of the Lord. Things happen to us in this life. Things when we may turn away from God, or something happens, we have struggles, we have pains that are part of our focus on God, and things that may pull us away. Have we ever enjoyed that discipline? Discipline is not something we like. The passage here says it seems no discipline is pleasant. but later it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Jason read in James chapter 1 in his sermon last week about how the trials and temptations produce patience. And I like the story that Ralph mentions, and I've heard this a couple of times from him. I heard it last week at the work release, how going and knocking on doors and getting the hand in the face. You know, and we have to go through some trials and temptations. In this country, we are blessed in many ways, and we don't have some of the things, some of the hardships that other countries, that the people that we're supporting in Africa have to face. But we do have doors shut in our face. If we don't have the hand in our face, sometimes I've seen people that can give you that look that's equivalent to the hand in the face. We tell our children that words don't hurt you. But we try to fit in so much sometimes because we don't want people talking about us behind our back. We don't want people saying things. They do hurt sometimes, but we need to get through that and look to God to help us through those pain and obstacles. The obstacles I listed here just seem kind of silly for me, sometimes. The obstacles are just life. Things get in the way of my focus for God. It's what I've asked in my prayers at the work release a couple of weeks ago, is that it's just things in life seem to pull my focus away from God. Scouts, baseball, searching on the internet for an hour trying to figure out when is the next season of Downton Abbey going to be on iTunes. Silly little stuff. What is getting in the way of your race today? As you're thinking about where you're at in your spiritual race, what's getting in your way? What's causing you to lose focus? And we can pray to God to help with those obstacles, to help us to find a way around. And we've got a church family here that can also help us. Help pray that we can overcome those obstacles and help through any training that we need. Running a race, that's the fun part. You get inspired to run. You go through some training. There's a little bit of pain, but you're training, and you've got through that training, and now you get to run a race. And I've run several races in the last 2 years, but I want to share with you guys one just recently. This summer, I was running a 5K in Columbiana, and it was going to be my best time. I had trained, I was ready, and I was running it was better than jogging. I know I was running. I'm looking at Chris because he talked bad about joggers. But I was running, I did really good, and I felt good. At 1 mile in, I felt like I just started. At 2 miles, I felt like I just started, and I can take off. And sure enough, we came around a curve, and it was a downhill run. And some people try to stay on pace. When they see a downhill, I don't. I go. Go for it. I'm flying. So if I fall, I'm going to get hurt, but I'm just running. And there was a guy in front of me, and I was catching up to him. And there was a guy way in front of him, and I said, I'm going to finish this race and beat that guy. And we got to the bottom of that hill, and I was running. About that time, I heard, "Hey!" And I turned around, and I saw 2 other runners way back there. "You missed the road." And in my race where I was feeling so good, this was going to be my best time, I just came downhill. I turned around, and I had a big uphill run to get to where I was supposed to be because I was following the wrong person. He didn't know the way either. The other guy, he just kept going. I don't know where he ended up. But I got back up there, and I did finish that race. It was a little disappointing, difficult to get back up, difficult to stay focused for the rest of that race. But that inspired me to, next race, I'm going to do better. I'm going to watch for signs, follow the right people. In our spiritual race, we also have good days that we're running. But have you ever missed the road in our spiritual race? Proverbs 4, verses 18 and 19 says, "The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter to the full light of day. But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble." You know, I thought about that, being at the bottom of that hill, turning back and looking up. Have you ever been in that position in your spiritual race where you thought everything was going good, but you turned and said, how do I get here? How did I get here? And how do I get back up that? A lot of the things I mentioned in my life have been smaller hills that can climb back, but I know there are people in my family that when they turn and look back, it's a mountain. It's a big thing to climb. So it's tough. And when you're in that darkness, this verse in Proverbs says they don't even know what makes them stumble. Lose track of. They don't even know what is the obstacle in their way. It's difficult to get back, difficult to get focused, but it can happen. You can do it. You can pray to God. And we've got, a church family here that will surround you with support and help you up that hill. And in life, I mentioned I've run several races. We have similarly, I think, several spiritual races that we have, these goals that we're working towards in finishing the course for God. Each time we have an occasion like that showed we took the wrong turn, we need to learn from that and desire to work harder and get better, do more. Set up that goal for the next race and get ready for it. Finishing the course. Haven't run my full marathon yet, but that's ahead of me. We've got a full course ahead of us. We're in an ultra marathon. This is a long distance, and we've got to set goals, hold each other accountable to those goals, and keep working towards those goals. And I've said it many times, and it's one reason I write these letters is because I love my church family. And this is a great church family to be a part of. And you can look to your fellow runners. We're all running for a crown that will last forever. What pace are you running at? A lot of things that I've been talking about today has been faster, slower, but there's people running at different style paces. I've been in races. I've seen people running. There's some different styles out there. But there's different styles in our church family here. What pace are you at? I can't remember our personality profiles, but I'm going to throw out some colors here. I think there's some purple pace people that are part of this family. Some purple pace that are drawing stick figures and putting them on PowerPoints and challenge us to get out of our comfort zone. Jason? It's good. It's challenging us. Some green pacers. These green pacers are encouraging others, helping others. Sometimes I'll just sit around not knowing what to do. I know I need to help, but how do I help those people? There's some green pacers. Ginger, Kelly. There's some red pacers that they are the guys that they lay out the truth and say, here's how it is. They don't hide much of it, Brandon. Just throw it out there. So you've got some sprinters in this church family, and it's great to see. We just like to watch the sprinters run, right? In the Olympics, we like to watch the sprinters run. We've got some sprinters in this congregation, and sometimes it's just fun to watch these guys run, John Dean. It's fun to watch you run in this spiritual race. If you don't like any of those colors, as you're setting your goal, pick a new color. Set a pace. What color? You can grab whatever one you want. But start a new color and help lead some others in that pace. There's a saying I like in running. It says, we don't stop running when we get old. you get old when you stop running. And that's true with our service to God. It's a good movie I like. There's a scene in this movie about two brothers that they like to race one another. They would race into the ocean and see which one could swim the farthest. And the one that couldn't, the one that turned first into the ocean, he was the loser because the other one was stronger and could keep going further. And in that movie, the older brother was the stronger swimmer. He always won this race because he could go further. And he always won. They had several races. But then there was one as these boys got to be older and about their teenage years where the younger brother beat him, went further. He actually had to help the older brother back to shore because he just ran out of steam. Couldn't make it back. And at the end of that movie, they kind of separate after that race. At the end of that movie, the older brother says, "You've got to tell me, how did you beat me? I was the better swimmer. I'm still the better swimmer. How did you beat me?" And the younger brother said, "I wasn't planning on coming back. I wasn't saving any energy for the trip back." And in thinking about my family here, this church family, I've heard the term using themselves up about some people in this congregation. I believe it. There are several people in this congregation that are using themselves up for serving God. And I'm thankful to be a part of a family where people are using themselves up serving God, using their energy to go forward. They're not saving any energy for the sin that is behind us, but using all of it to go forward. So the challenge this morning is to lay aside every weight, as it says in Hebrews 12. Lay aside the sins that beset you. Run with patience the race set before you. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith. Where are you at today? First thing most people, when they start running, is they join a couch to 5K program. Go from the couch to running a 5K. And when they finish that 5K, many people are cheering for them because they've made that attempt and they've done well. My mom just recently finished her first 5K, and we were really excited for her. But this morning, you can go from that pew to being saved. You can go from that pew to being saved. And I'll tell you what's different about this is you're going to have a lot of people cheering here. You're going to have a church family cheering. But you're also going to have angels in heaven cheering for that decision. And you can do that this morning. Have you slipped off your pace? For some reason, you've just slowed down and you can be better. Maybe you haven't let others know about your goals so they can hold you accountable. But you can do that this morning. You can share your goals with others. Have you stopped running your race? Have you got to a bottom of a hill, missed the road, and you look back up and it looks too big? You don't know what to do. You need help. We've got an awesome family here that will surround you with love and can help you with whatever obstacles, whatever pain is keeping you from running this race. We can do that this morning. So if you have any need, please come forward as we stand and sing.